22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
And they're not afraid to say it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 320. As you see, I'm still, roughing it a little bit, taking it easy. I'm joined today with my partner, Dr. Bob. Damon is not here today. What's up, my brother?
AJ, what's happening, AJ?
I'm good. We're going to get right into the show today. No big intro other than to say I had to turn off the Giants earlier again. It looks like they're going to find another. I don't know what the score is now. I turned them off. I got frustrated and turned them off today. I don't know what's going on with my guys, man. They just keep finding another way to lose. Even the Jets won 2 games now, and the Giants still only won 1. So, That's the pain of being a New York sports fan sometimes. You know what I mean? I'm a Giants fan. I'm a Knicks fan. And, sometimes, they give you a lot of heartburn. But, real fans supposed to be real fans. What you been up to, Bob?
Well, of course, it's getting, into the part of the semester. But amongst other things, AJ, as you know from our personal discussions, I've been gearing up for analysis related to the topic of today's show, which is the redistricting effort. So, man, I've been all in on that pretty much for the past 2 weeks. I'm just trying to bring myself up to speed and using certain applications and familiarizing myself with the massive amount of data related to this. So,
wow. So we are going to do a show on redistricting, and, for all those, there may be a lot of people out there that don't know what redistricting is. So I have a small, 1-2 minute video called Understanding Redistricting. And we're going to start that off, and then we're going to introduce our guests.
What exactly is redistricting? Let's go to the map. Redistricting is the process by which new congressional and state legislative district boundaries are drawn. Districts are political divisions from which United States representatives and state legislators are elected. District lines are redrawn every 10 years following completion of the United States Census. In most states, the legislatures are primarily responsible for redistricting. Reformers believe that lawmakers redraw state district lines with political interest in the outcome. Instead, reformers advocate using different redistricting processes, including independent apolitical commissions. Others maintain that alternative processes are less accountable to voters and are still subject to partisan abuse. Redistricting is often challenged due to gerrymandering, the practice of drawing district lines to favor one political party, individual, or constituency over another. Political parties sometimes draw district lines for their own benefit, instead of being proportional and creating fair representation. Additionally, district lines can potentially minimize the influence of minority voters by disproportionately consolidating them within single districts or splitting them across several districts. You can obtain more information on redistricting by visiting ballotpedia.org.
And today we have Tiffany Somerville, and say hello to the people.
Hello. Happy Sunday.
And she invited Louis Romaine. Did I say your name right, my brother? You're on mute. Okay, I still can't hear you. Can you?
Louis?
But we can't hear him though. Can y'all hear him?
No, we didn't hear.
He's unmuted, but we can't hear him.
Guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. There we go. Good to go. So I played that little video. You know, I like to educate the audience as often as possible. We're talking about redistricting, which happens after the census. We're specifically talking about redistricting in the congressional 16th district, which as of now consists of the places like Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, Yonkers, the Northeast Bronx, and a couple of other places, but it's a very heavy African-American district, power. I'm trying to find the right word. There's a lot of African-Americans in this district, probably more than a lot of other districts. And the new redistricting proposals would break that up. Just like the video says, sometimes they try to throw us all in one district, or they try to break us up into different districts. And that's in sense what they would try to do with the 16th district. Tiffany, I'll let you start. I know you've been doing some work and looking into it. Talk about why this is important to the people.
Great. Thank you, AJ and Dr. Bob. So, so redistricting is a legal process, right? It is a legal process. It happens every 10 years, and it's based upon the data of the census, which is why one of the many reasons it's important for us to participate in the census. But this legal process is also quite insidious at times, as it strives to gerrymander the Black and brown voting population, and that is what's happening now. So the redrawing of these maps first of all, this is going on across the nation. Right. So we hear about it mostly in red states, in Texas. We've been hearing about it in Michigan. So we've been hearing about it in other states, but it does happen to blue states as well. And, New York is not exempt, and specifically District 16 is not exempt from this.
Right. Okay. So I one of the promotional things I found was people should pick their politicians, not the other way around, right? And with redistricting, the politicians are picking their people. Mm-hmm. And but now, can you explain what? I talked a little bit about it. I know Bob may have it. You might have it. Some numbers of what the current makeup of the district is and what they would like to do. There's two proposals. Do you? I don't know, Bob. Do you have that in your computer and you can show it on the screen?
So
no, you don't. Okay.
Offhand, I'm sorry, AJ. It's going gross. But I can tell you that the current, the African Americans comprise about 30% of the current district, thus giving them a significant amount of power. And there are two redistricting proposals that are currently on the map. One would reduce the number of African Americans in the district by about 10% down to about 21%. And the second map, if I'm not mistaken, will reduce the number of African Americans to 19%.
Right. If I could just jump in, if you think about the areas that are going to be significantly impacted, right? So the Northeast Bronx, of which I am a resident and have been for well over 40 years. I've actually lived here and then in Mount Vernon as well. So this community has in the past been the forgotten community, right? So the focus typically, when you think of Bronx County, which is a huge county, the focus is typically on the South Bronx. And so this area has been, a forgotten community, but we are a stone's throw from Mount Vernon, from Yonkers, and from New Rochelle. And these communities are made up of many Black and brown, I say brown, voters and people, and we have similar and common interests. And so the initial map is looking to dilute this voting common interest structure, right? And so again, it happens every 10 years. I don't think are coincidences as to why there's a strong push to do it now. But I do want to just make sure the groups that are going to be highly impacted are these groups of common interest. Louis, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. Thanks, Tiffany. Just a quick few observations, and I agree. Like, we have to look at the aspect of common interest as it relates to what's being proposed here. We look at Mount Vernon, and to be honest, when you look at some of the Black enclaves that are here within Westchester, you have Greenburgh, right? You have Mount Vernon, you have a bit of New Rochelle, but I would say I have more, in being a Mount Vernon resident, I have more similarities and common interests with those that might be in Co-op City versus those that might be in Greenburgh. Right? If I look even at my own home church, right? I'm a member of Greater Centennial AME Zion Church, a big church right here in Mount Vernon, also in Westchester. But when you look at the membership of Greater Centennial AME Zion Church, there's a good amount of our members that are from Mount Vernon. Also, there's a great amount of our members that are from Co-op City, because we are right there on the border of the Bronx. And so when I think of the parishioners that I worship with on a given Sunday, it does have that complexity and that diversity that our district currently has. And right now, Co-op City is actually being proposed to be taken out of our district as it remains right now. And as Dr. Bob stated, yes, there is in terms of the representation of the proposed maps of what that Black representation looks like. Yes, there is, in terms of 22% was one. The other one, was 20%, 19%, right? 19% and 20%. But what that boils down to, not only in terms of just actual census and representation, but the numbers, if you look at what is the actual citizen voting age population, in the two maps that are proposed, they both equal 22%. So in terms of what we see is in terms of voting power, Black voting power, in the two maps that are represented, that's 22%. And we look at what's the state of affairs right now, right? We are looking at Westchester County, one of the richest counties in the country, that for the first time ever is being represented by two African Americans. And it's ironic that now we are fast forwarding, and that the shape of our districts are going to be changing, and it's going to have less Black representation. And I come out of the organizing perspective that we believe in people power, right? And right now, if you're trying to divide the people, you're diluting the power that is within this district. And so we have to take a real critical look at how this is being done, and if it's really going to be serving our people accordingly.
What sparked my interest looking at the chart, and I'm going to try to bring this up on the screen at some point. So the Democratic shift based on the independent commission maps, currently black people make up 31%. In map A, it would be 20%, which is minus 11. It would be 19%, which is minus 12. That in itself is one thing. But in addition to that, when you look at others, mainly white, that are currently 36%, the map A would bring them at 46%, which would be an increase of 10%, and 47%, which would be an increase of 11%. So it's actually taking away some of the Black vote and adding more white votes. Now, everybody always blames me and says, why do I have to make everything about race? Why do I have to make everything about color? But I have to ask the question, and I'll give everybody a chance to give me their opinion on this. So Elliot Engel, who was a great supporter of Black Westchester, he served for 31 years, which means over 3 censuses. And I don't go back that far, but I don't think they broke up. They had to have a problem with the current structure the way it was for those after those three censuses. And now that he was defeated by a young African American man who's very outspoken, now there is an attempt to suppress the power of the black vote in this district. I don't know if one has to do with the other. It could be a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence, but it has to. The voters, you have to ask. You have to ask why. Why now?
You have to have a critical eye.
I do agree with Louise is saying. You have to fill out the census. We've exhaustively on this show brought in many people from the local municipalities that were running the census in their area. We begged, borrowed, pleaded, give people the information, tried to give all the information on why it was important. It wasn't as great as a response as we wanted, but at this point, talking about filling out the census is not helping us right now. The census was filled out. This is what we're stuck with for 10 years, and this is what they're trying to do. And it's not that it's something illegal. It's just when you look at the percentage of bringing down the blacks represent 31%, bringing them down 11 and 12%, and bringing the white percentage up 10 and 11%. Why are we doing that now? I mean, and that is curious to me.
Well, it should be, and that's why I said there aren't any coincidences, and for those folks who you have different groups of people and different levels of engagement and activation, right? And so for those of us who are highly engaged, these are things that we're constantly thinking of and saying, hey, look, we could have almost projected something like this could have happened, right? When there was a change in representation of over 30 years. Right. So we kind of could have projected this would happen. But now we're here and we need to make sure that we are given the tools to empower ourselves, not leaving it up to anyone else and saying, let's wait for someone to come out and, the someone is you. And there are opportunities for us to make sure that our voices are heard and holding folks in power in that we have said, hey, you're going to go represent us. We're holding you accountable. And now we have someone that's in place who is a voice for the entire community. And so again, it is absolutely not a coincidence. And whatever level of engagement, understand that what happens is going to have an impact for the next 10 years. So
and I just want to say I want to make an observation real quick, and then I want to say, now on a national level, there's a great effort to voter suppression across the nation. People say, well, that doesn't affect me. They are putting in, so the Republicans lost. They lost actually the Senate barely. They lost. They didn't have the House. They wanted to recapture. They lost the presidency. They're all of this talk about challenging the previous election has nothing to do with the previous election, but putting things in place so when they try this again in the next election, they will have the people to back up these crazy things if they lose. They tried to get people to do certain things and people wouldn't do it. A lot of those people are not there now. And a lot of those people won't be there now. A lot of people who voted against, who voted for the impeachment, the 10 Republicans, many of them probably won't be there. They will be primaried, or some of them are already talking about they're not rerunning. There's an attack on the black vote overall, on a national level, and we have to watch what's going on here locally. Now, this redistricting and the voter suppression might be two different things, but there's a big effort to lessen our power and make it harder for us to vote. And we need to step up. With that said, when we talk about things like this, I always like to let people know, this is just a proposal from what I understand. this is not written in stone. There are things the listeners, the people, the voters in the 16th district, and while we're dealing with the 16th district, this is going on everywhere. But we're dealing with the 16th district right now. There are things that you can do. Can you speak on some of those things that people can do to if at the end of this they don't like what they hear and they want to do something?
Sure. Before Tiff, I know Tiff is anxious to get in there and tell folks how to do that, but I did want to share really quick to a point that you made, Brother AJ, regarding just like the comparisons and the similarities between the suppression of votes that's happening nationally and also this aspect of redistricting, right? Because at the one common thread that I see in it is the aspect of making civic participation harder than it needs to be, right? If the census is a form of our people being civically engaged, right, and filling out the process, filling out that form, this redistricting process is supposed to be a process where even we as the constituents in various districts of New York are able to go to the commission and kind of explain to them why any reservations that we have with these proposals. But even that is a cumbersome process. And so all in all, it does seem like there is a lot of bureaucracy that's put in place for people to have access to influence their government. And that's what we're seeing, not just with the redistricting, but it's happening with the voting as well.
Tiffany?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I just wanted to mention, so New York has an independent redistricting commission in charge of this, and it's not part of the government, nor is it a political group. So we do have an opportunity as constituents, and they want us to raise our voices, right? And so listen, my parents are from Alabama, old school, to say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So let's raise our voices in the form of a testimony. We can give testimonies either online, we can do it via mail, or we can do it in person. And we can definitely share some information. I've shared this with you, AJ, as well. So our voices can be heard. We have the resources to do it. Listen, the process is not, as Louis just mentioned, the process is not an easy process to do this. You have to sign up. You have to wait 4 to 6 days before you can actually get your registration taken care of. So, people need to be patient. For those people who wait online for the new iPhone or new whatever sneaker that comes out, y'all can be patient for that. Be patient for this, right? So we do want to make sure that we understand that everybody, every constituent, every New Yorker, you can testify in one of 3 ways. Again, it doesn't online, in person, or via mail. So we want to make sure that we'll get that information out and provide whatever information that, whatever assistance we can provide. But our voices have to be heard, and we cannot be complacent. We cannot sit and be quiet. We cannot sit and say, well, I'm going to wait for Dr. Bob to do it. We each are in control of our own destinies and the destinies of our families, and generational. We talk about generational wealth. Well, how are we going to attain this wealth? This is one of the ways to do it. It's all part of a systemic ploy, if you will, to make sure that we don't do it. They make it arduous, but we have to say, listen, this is important enough for us for the next 10 years.
Dr. Bob.
Yes. So I will note that the New York State Independent Redistricting Committee is comprised of appointees from both of the major parties. And I don't know I don't know who made all of the appointments to the commission. I can tell you over the last couple of days, I have actually reviewed the membership profiles of commissioners that are available on the commission's website, and there are a number of persons of color who are strong advocates for the preservation of African American voting rights in particular. One gentleman who I had an opportunity to listen to is Dr. John Flattoe, who happens to be an alum of the City University of New York. He's been involved in redistricting efforts for some time now. And he reminded viewers that the commission welcomes that the lines are not drawn yet. These are proposals, and that the commission welcomes input from members of communities. And I want to amplify the point that Tiffany and Lewis have been making, that there is no way to get the lines drawn in a more equitable fashion that preserves the common interests and also voting power of African Americans if we don't have a significant amount of participation in the public testimony. That's what is being waited for. If the effort to redraw the line goes unchallenged, then you can bet your bottom dollar that these will be the lines that we get. And I want to add, everyone, that the consequences are probably going to be even more severe than most people imagine. Not only will the district lines be redrawn so that our voting power will be reduced essentially by 30%. That's what we're talking about. A 10 percentage point in voting power of African Americans is actually a 30%, 33% overall reduction. More importantly, or just as importantly from my perspective, is the connection that's now been established between the size of an election district and people's perception of power. There's a scholar that has been looking at these issues recently and said, besides efforts to deliberately suppress the vote through all kind of machinations, if you could just get Black voting power down to below the 20% range, it's going to give people the perception that they're weak. And that when people believe they're weak, their election participation rates drop even further. So it's actually, we're getting ready to get hit with a double whammy if there is not a significant amount of pushback. And, you know, again, everyone, is as inconvenient, as arduous as you may find the process, this is the process. The constitutionally mandated process. I'd imagine that in some respects, it's been something of an improvement over redistricting efforts in the past, insofar as this is a nonpartisan body. But I have to say that I was just reading an article the other day, and you know what, the fight continues. So even though I'm surprised that the Democratic members of the commission would not have put forth a set of maps that does more to preserve the voting power of Black Westchesterites, nevertheless, this is where we're at, and I advise everyone to get in gear and get ready to fight.
One of the reasons I wanted to do this show when this topic was brought to my attention, normally you hear a push to vote, you hear a push for the census, but we don't have this conversation afterwards. And when lines are being proposed, that we can do something about it, we just find out what the lines were afterwards. Usually this information doesn't trickle down to our community. Hopefully, in me doing this show, it will help bring awareness to people who never had awareness that they can do something, that they have the power to say, no, you're not going to do that here, and speak up. Because if you don't tell people, if you don't inform people of what their power is, and you don't tell them what's going on, and when they find out it's too late, which is usually what happens, there's nothing we can do. Hopefully, the reason for this show is so we can use our political our voice, and we can step up and we can make the change that we normally don't have the opportunity to do. So that was my purpose for wanting to have this conversation, and hopefully it will bring awareness. People will learn. People will know where to go for further information, and people, as we always say, don't take our word for anything that we say on this show. Please look it up yourself. Everything that is being said is online, and you can Google it, and you can find the information. that we need to do more of that too. We need to just stop listening to people and whatever's on Facebook, and we just take it verbatim and we run with it, and we go tell 20 of our friends, and they tell 20 of their friends, and they tell 20 of their friends, and now 3.2 million people are believing this one thing that the one person wrote that didn't know what the hell they was talking about. Right. So I try to encourage our listenership to be informed and do the research themselves. Look the stuff up. We'll send you the links. You can't find it, hit us. We'll tell you where it's at. I'm gonna try to share it on the site and everything. So
if I could just look that up really quick again, it's nyirc.gov. That's New York.
Say that again.
nyirc.gov.
rc.gov.
/participate. If you go to .gov, you can navigate it around. So that's New York Independent Redistricting Commission. nyirc.gov. You can go there and submit your testimonies online. But if you want to make it visible, if you want to go in person, Monday, November 8th at 3 p.m. in White Plains is going to be a hearing. Tuesday, November 9th at 3 p.m. in the Bronx at the Bronx Works Gymnasium. And Wednesday, November 10th at 3 p.m. at Hunter College. So you have 3 options in our area, November 8th, 9th, and 10th, where you can go and give a hearing in person. If you want to give a hearing in person or a testimony in person, you will have to sign up first on the website. So regardless if you're going to go in person or do a testimony online, you have to go to nyirc.gov. It's very important because, put simply, without fair redistricting, it's going to be hard for us to build the necessary Black and brown power that we need in our community. So the change that we need is actually visible. So in this moment, we need folks to come out and give their testimonies for a fair redistricting process.
Let me ask a question before you go. I know Tiffany wants to say something. So we have a lot of people who watch this show that are not in the 16th congressional district. Mm-hmm. Can they go to NYRIC to put in their congressional district and see what's being done, what's being proposed for their district? Mm-hmm. They can find out, and then the same thing. They can give testimony online, and it'll show the places where they can
all the various hearings. So the hearings are actually going to be starting this week. They're going to be kicking off this week in Buffalo, but folks can go onto that website regardless of where you live in New York State. You can go to that website, submit your testimony, also find out more information about what your proposed district is looking like and the maps that correspond to that. So that has a wealth of information that you'll need.
Okay, I asked that because one of our listeners wanted to know where in White Plains, like there's White Plains, Greenburgh, there's other people in the county looking, so they're not in the 16th district, at least not right now. Who knows? Right. They might be soon.
I have to double check. I think it's Pace. I think it's going to be at Pace and at White Plains, Pace Law School, but I'll double check. But I think it's Pace Law School for the Westchester location.
If you can't find it, Luis, you hit me and I will make sure I get the information of where it will be for your district. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I wanted to say a further word about why the proposal to redraw the district boundaries in their way would adversely affect the African American community. And Tiffany and Louis, you'll forgive me, Louis, I'm going to take a little bit easier. I think hit the nail on the head that the way the lines will be redrawn essentially breaks up a community of interest that currently transcends the municipal boundaries that we take for granted that separates the Bronx from Westchester County. Yep. When we think about it, actually, not only Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, and Yonkers together, I think, and I'm not looking at my numbers, AJ, so here I'm making a guesstimate, but I'm pretty certain they come near to comprising about 50% of the entire population of Black population of Westchester County. Mount Vernon alone, we have 60,000 something out of about 190. So that's about a third. You throw in New Rochelle and Yonkers together. All of these communities share a common border with the Bronx. The reason that this is important is because it suggests that when we look beyond these artificial boundaries, we see that there are a number of ways in which we live in a single functionally integrated community. As a matter of fact, I was reflecting on my own personal biography and the other anecdotal evidence from family and friends, and I see a common pattern. I used to live, like Tiffany, I used to live in the Bronx. I lived on Eastchester Road and Hammersley, and returned back to my hometown of Mount Vernon. But that wasn't the only place that I lived. I also lived on right around the corner from Dyer Avenue. And there are so many of my family and friends for whom this is a common journey that they make. Oftentimes starting in the Bronx, at the lower end of the socioeconomic totem pole, getting a toehold at the beginning of their working careers. And by the time they got 20 years in, they've moved up the professional ladder, have saved some money, and now are ready to make the transition from rental housing to home ownership. A lot of times those opportunities are available in the Bronx, but we know many people are opting to move into Westchester County instead. I know this is true for my son's aunt, my friend Kirk, who you know well. AJ, it's a very common story. So housing markets in a way are functionally integrated. I was also, our labor markets are functionally integrated as well. As Louis said, for most of us who live on the southern part of Westchester County, we're more likely to orient our lives to the downstate area, right? I don't know where you guys work, but I work in the Bronx. I work in the Bronx, and a good number of us, when we have to leave Mount Vernon for work, and we're not going north oftentimes, we're more likely going south. So those labor markets are integrated. Things like transportation is a unique need that we have for transportation, precisely because the transportation system of two different municipalities straddles our border, and we need coordination. We also need coordination with our environmental problems, the problems that we have with the canal and the leaching of all of those toxic substances from Mount Vernon into the local canal that feeds in right along Co-op City, whatever that canal is, y'all know. Louis, your mic is off, man. So there's opportunity and challenges that are confronted by our community, are shared despite our boundaries, and therefore we need a federal officer who's capable of coordinating the federal response to those challenges. Imagine, and AJ and I are especially aware of this, Louis and Tiffany, I don't know how much you listen to the show, but we have to speak about Westchester's challenges and those of Mount Vernon in particular rather frequently.
Sure.
And we could imagine the difficulty that the city would have in trying to rehabilitate its sewer system if instead of having one congressman who can show how what we're doing with our sewer system impacts the Bronx, is going to be much harder if we've got 2-3 congresspersons who we need to chase behind and kind of to get a coordinated effort. So I don't think people should underestimate.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bob. So, and you and I are certainly aligned. So, how and where the districts are drawn will influence how your elected officials will respond to our needs, right? So that's talking about everything you just said, right? It's talking about racial justice. It's talking about jobs, our infrastructure, making sure that the roads for in our area are, not bumping all over the place where you need to get your tires replaced. All of these things, healthcare, right? So the hospitals, all of these things, libraries, after school programs. This is how it will impact. This is why it's important. So, I just wanted to make it really, really clear to folks to understand that that we're just not kind of talking about a theory, like, this would be great if we had. This is what it will impact for the next 10 years. And we want, our elected officials, and we want folks who are going to represent our interests and make sure that we're, further developing and further growing our communities. And so I will say, I think all of us can say, well, I will speak for myself. I'm seeing changes. I'm seeing the beginning of perhaps gentrification in this area. I'm seeing this, right? So we want to make sure that we have power. We need to make sure that we lean into our empowerment, and that we do have resources and tools, and we now have people who are advocating for us. So we have to do our part. And I keep saying this, in several different ways. It's not just up to others. It's what are you going to do about it?
I want to say hello to Yonkers City Councilwoman Tasha Diaz, who is watching. I think it's very important that our elected officials like Tasha Diaz are hearing us when we have these conversations. So they can take these conversations to City Hall, and they can then articulate it to their constituents as well. So we need to. It needs to be a concerted effort. I wanted to say to Louise Cherico, who lives in Greenberg, in the Greenberg area, the 17th district is your district is the 17th district, and your congressman is Mondier. But from what I understand, they want to take the Bronx, the Northeast Bronx, out of the 16th district and draw the lines further up, which may include the Greenberg area and some of those areas, and then move Mondier Jones further up, where he may have only a little piece of Westchester or not Westchester at all. You know what I mean? And just the other part. So there's and this affects Jamal Bailey's Senate district. This affects all the districts around us. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? This is not just our district, but we're specifically dealing with the 16th district right now.
Yeah. So three things really quick. I did want to respond to two of the questions that came up in the chat. I saw one person ask, just to clarify again, it is the hearing in Westchester on November 8th. That is at the Pace Law School. So folks can go there if they would like to testify. That's 3 p.m. In the moot courtroom there on November 8th. Also, somebody asked about timeline. So just to give a little bit of context around the timeline and what this is looking like. So the commission, which I would also add, if we're talking about the membership and composition of the commission, there are actually about 3 commissioners on there that are from Westchester County. So we're talking about racial diversity that's on the commission, also looking at geographic diversity on the commission and who might actually have some kind of influence on our behalf. So there are some folks that are on there that are from Westchester. They are the commissioners are hoping to make sure that they are able to give these proposals and the recommendations over to the state by the end of the year. So they're looking towards end of December, early January to have these proposals over to the state so that the state can approve, because there is a short crunch time that we have here because the congressional races are happening in June, right? We're going to be voting for our next congressional representative in June. So they have to really turn these district maps over quick enough so that we can actually have a fair election and a proper election. So these hearings are going to be, as I said, starting this Wednesday in Buffalo, are going to be going out throughout November. The commission is going to come back together after they receive the recommendations, redraw the maps, and then present them over to the state. And hopefully we can get them all approved and find out by March and February who's actually going to be living in what district.
AJ, I will share the copy of. I actually have both of the proposed maps, and so just for our viewers who are interested in taking a look, these are the 2 maps that are currently being proposed. You could see they closely resemble one another, but the map that I currently have my cursor on extends further north. What everyone should know is that at present, our congressional district extends along the southern border here, right? This is Mount Vernon. This is the border of Mount Vernon right here that I'm
Yeah, and in both maps, there is still a piece of the Bronx, right? But it's
Right.
significantly less than what we've had, what the current map looks like.
Right.
You get a little bit of that Eden Wall area, but you don't lose some part of Gun Hill as well as part of Co-op. Well, actually, all of Co-op City in the two proposed maps.
Right. So, and if anyone wants to look at them in closer detail, I believe you can download them from the commission's website with a little bit of digging. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I just wanted everyone to have an opportunity to see them.
Yeah, and without fair districting, listen, it could be harder to build power for Black and brown communities. It's simple, and we want to make sure that our voices are heard. And again, I keep repeating it because it's absolutely important. It's critical, and I know that some folks say, "Oh my gosh, every election is critical." Well, you know what? It is. Yep, it is, because, it's about strategy, and we want to make sure that we are strategizing again for the future of our families, for the future. So,
and this fight is particularly important because here we're not just playing for the purposes of determining victory or loss, but rather we're right now engaged in the struggle over what the rules of the game will be for the next 5 congressional elections, 2 gubernatorial and presidential elections, senatorial senator doesn't have maybe such an impact at that level, but it can't be underestimated, as well as the impact that it's going to have on the balance of power in the state legislature also, because the redrawing of, though we have focused in our remarks on the way that the congressional district is going to be redrawn, similar proposal is on the table to redraw our state assembly and state senatorial district lines as well. My understanding is that Senator Jamal Bailey, New York State Senator Jamal Bailey's Senate lines are likely to be radically redrawn, weakening our collective power at the senatorial level if we don't, turn out in numbers to express our opposition.
yeah. We can't take our feet off the gas. We just cannot. We don't have that luxury.
We say that all the time. We have to stop. We have to stop just voting and thinking our job is over.
Oh.
A lot of us go out, those who actually vote, because there's a lot who don't even vote, but they feel like they've done their job once they've cast their ballot. They go about life as normal, and they're not paying attention to what's going on. They're not speaking up. They're not holding people feet to the fire. And then they go to sleep for 4 years and wake up again, and then they vote again. It's a participatory sport. You have to participate. That is how if you want your rights to be considered, you have to participate. If you want things to just keep going and you not being considered at all, you can just go ahead and do what you keep doing and see how that works out for you. But you have to participate. And again, I want people to pay attention to this, and I want to share this video after it's over, all over the district, because we usually don't get to have these conversations before. I want to make that clear. Usually you might see something glazed over in like your News 12s, your Low HUD, your Daily News or something, but they're not breaking it down to how that affects your community and your district and what that means to you and what you can do. So we need to take this information. We need to pay attention. And those is getting this information, we need to share it with others and our family and our community so we can have a more informed community and we can make more informed decisions. And that's how, just complaining, we have to get to a point where we stop complaining on Facebook. We stop complaining at the barbershop, and we just complain, oh, they don't never do nothing, and this don't happen here, and this don't. There's a responsibility. You, the people, that whole we the people thing, you have the power And once once you realize that, we can get a lot more stuff done. I bang this home all the time, and I'm going to keep doing that. Hopefully, it will sink in at some point. Brother Alexander Bates said, if not taken seriously, wouldn't it be hard to change these lines, as these lines have stayed consistent for a number of years already?
Yeah, I think what Alex is saying, Alexander is saying, is that if we don't seize on the opportunity right now to shape the way that the lines are going to be drawn, A, it won't be another 10 years at a minimum, and B, when we do the next decennial census, it's going to be hard to change those lines, a kind of almost bureaucratic inertia, if you will. So I agree with him. If the lines manage to survive this time, they're less likely to be redrawn next time out, especially because the impetus for doing so will have to come from the Black community and won't be coming from these sort of larger forces that seem to be driving this process now.
I've often said, no one is going to do the things we need them to do because it is the right thing to do. No one has ever given us anything that we have ever gotten because it was just the right thing to do. Pressure has been applied on many levels. People have marched, have got beat up, have got arrested, have got killed. So we have some of the rights that we have now. And like voting, for instance, voting was a right before I was born. Because of the work that they did, my generation, my daughter's generation, the generation after that, they didn't have to worry about it. But right now, they're trying to take away that right to vote. We need to fight for all these things so our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids, like Bob said, this could be the new format, the new lines for another 30 years. This is, you know what I mean? Or whatever. So we have to fight, and not even just for us, for our future generations.
Right. Of course.
You know.
Of course. I mean, if you just take a step back, right? Why is there such a huge push for voter suppression? Why is there such a now it's so prevalent that we now have to, hey, we need to change, redraw the districts. This is, just take a step back, right? There is a reason why, and that's why don't give up your power. We have it. Don't give it.
You muted yourself again. Tiffany. There you go.
I must have some gremlins, because I promise you, I'm not. No. It's a conspiracy. Okay. Yeah.
You went off again.
There you go again.
I think your elbow hit something, Tiff.
You must be, yeah. When you're moving around, you like tap tap tap. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to be very still. Okay. There's a reason why. Take a step back. Why are they trying to suppress the vote? Why is it now such a push to redraw the districts? They see the power that we have. Don't give it away. And I know this is ominous today, but make sure we're voting. It's not just at the federal level. What impacts us on a day-to-day basis is at the local level. That's what impacts us on a day-to-day basis. That's what impacts our families, our parents, our children, grandchildren. So we want to make sure that we are utilizing the tools and resources. This ahead of time. So right. So we're not behind. Having to play catch up right now from this perspective. We can make our voices known and provide these testimonies. And also for those people to look in and say, hey, what's going on in my district? If I'm not in 16, let me make sure that, something's not happening in my district. It's all about knowledge is absolute power. It is power.
I wanted to piggyback on what you said. So let's look at what's going on. So in the last election, we have 2 African-American congressmen for the first time in 16th and 17th district. Our county legislator is mostly Democrat. We have different places throughout Westchester. Peekskill is about to get their first black female mayor. Greenburgh almost got their first black female town supervisor. If Tasha Young would have won that race, it'd have been the first time that city wasn't run by a white man. You know what I'm saying? So, and she's probably going to run in the next election. We have the state Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins as the Senate Majority Leader. That's one of the three powerful positions in the state. It used to be called 3 men in a room. The governor, well, it can't be called that now. The governor's not a man either. The governor, the Senate Majority Leader, and the Speaker of the House. Those are the three that, at the bottom line, make the last decisions, that have a lot to say. She broke that ceiling. There was no longer 3 men in the room. Like, we have a black woman in that position. We have a black man at the House Speaker on that level. Like, we have so much representation that we never had before. And I've said this with the census before, and even on a national level, this country was usually run by white men. I say this in Yonkers. The Yonkers court was always run by white men. In the last 2 elections, we have a Latina woman, and now we have 2 black women in the courts now as judges. You know what I'm saying? They fear the browning of America. They're losing. They were solely in control. When they were the forefathers, they made all the rules. Even white women didn't have no rights. You know what I'm saying? They are losing power, and they are trying to hold on to it by any means necessary. So we have to take advantage of these situations. We have to keep moving on this momentum. We need to stop sitting on our laurels of what happened in the civil rights era, and the last couple of things we had during the cup. We didn't win nothing. We got to keep fighting. This is just one of these fights. And there's so many fights, but we need to pay attention to this one right now, because we can make a change right now, or stop them from making a change that dramatically alters things right now.
Yeah, I have to agree, right? Because when you look at a situation like our state Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins, right? What was able to get her into that position was the breaking up of the IDC, right? Those Democratic,
rogue Democrats that went rogue, yes,
that went rogue, that were going rogue for years, right?
Yes.
And siding with Republicans, voting with Republicans, and having backroom conversations with Governor Cuomo, right? But if you were to look at, the situation that was Senator Stewart Cousins was up against, I mean, I may have given up my hands. I may have thrown some fists or whatever. There would have been a lot of pressure, right? But she took persistence, and she made sure that she was able to stay
remained. I told her she remained regal.
Right. I don't know if I would have had that same kind of regalness, right? I
told her, I said, you did that. You did the Michelle Obama. I've seen them come after her in the race real ugly, and she never. She never resorted to that. She remained regal, right? And I have to give her that. And eventually she prevailed.
Exactly, but it took persistence, right? And that is because, honestly, if you go through this process, these political process, it can be easy for you to be disengaged. Even if you go through, breaking it down to our level, if you go through these political processes of how you can fight for your community to have a proper redistricting, how you can fight for your community to have the proper resources, it can be very disengaging. And that's by design, right? That's a tactic of politics that you use to disengage folks, to disenfranchise folks. But through it all, we have to be able to have brothers like you and Dr. Bob, right, who are able to kind of coach and be folks as cheerleaders throughout it, right, so that they can stay in this political game and try to see some results on the other side.
Yeah, and to that point, that's great. I mean, if look at District 16, right? So we had the predecessor was in this role for over 30 years, and so I did, like I said, I live in district, and at the time I worked in district as well. And so I would see him in district, in where I was in Ardsley. And so, but And I would say, so, what about the Northeast Bronx? What about Mount Vernon? What about Yonkers? Where are you where it comes to that? And I know that, it's not just about having an office in the city, right? It's about what you're actually doing for the constituents of those towns. And so really what, Jamal Bowman was the person who, was up against like a 30-year veteran, right? This person who had he was the principal of a school in the Bronx, right? So,
principal or founder of the school.
Founder, right?
Yeah.
So again, this is not, obviously people wanted a change. People wanted a change, right? And people came out and did this for so many other folks that look like us, right? So if we got to hold those folks accountable, and they're doing their jobs, and they are championing on our behalf, and that's what we want. So it's not, it feels good, right, to say, hey, but now what? And the now what is taking place, and others are like, we got to put let's pause. And we're saying, oh no, we're not paused. We're keeping our foot on play, and that's what we need to continue to do. It's on us. It is on us.
Dr. Bob.
I want to add that what is significant about the election of the two new African American congresspersons to our district isn't merely that they're African American, but rather they articulate the best of the progressive African American tradition, which makes the misfortune of the least of those amongst us a top priority. And in that sense, it really does, especially Congressman Bowman election in our district, since we are talking mainly about our district, but that includes Congressman Jones. We've seen a shift, right, in the congressional spending priorities, reflected in the ferocious fight that we're having right now to enact what would be the most significant increase in social spending spending for social programs in the United States, essentially since FDR or Lyndon Baines Johnson, depending on which program you pick, and without in any way taking anything away from former Congressman Elliot Engels, he does not have a track record that shows that he was making the needs of the neediest members of the district a very high priority.
Correct.
Congressman Bowman, for example, has been in the lead, one of the lead sponsors of legislation that looks to green our schools and make sure that we increase our resiliency in the days ahead in the event of another pandemic, or to try to reduce the carbon emissions that come from our dated infrastructure. Those are not proposals that I heard championed with as much force prior to the election of the recent cohort of Congress members, whether it be Congressman Bowman, Congressman Jones, AOC, our brothers and sisters in the New York City region. This has really given this election, the last two elections, really does mark an increase in the visibility and potency of the Black brown vote, and the championing of progressive causes. And my fear is that if those lines are redrawn, and I know we all fear this, that we're going to lose the ability to elect such champions in the future.
I almost forgot one thing, and I didn't want to interrupt none of y'all while you were talking. And in addition to all of those advancements that I named, we're close to having our second African-American mayor of New York City, the biggest city in the world. You know what I'm saying? In the country. That's like we're moving in all different positions, and that scares a lot of people who have tried to keep us back for so long, who have, so what they do is they pull different things. Once we start getting to learn the rules of the game, they change the game. They change the rules on us.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And it's like it took us so long to learn the rules. Now they changed the rules again. So now we got to sit there and learn the rules all over again. But you need to be diligent and continue to learn, continue to put in the work, because it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Very true.
I want to it's 7:05. I have another guest coming in at 7:30. What I want to do, I want to spend a lot of time. We talked about some of the issues. Want to really hammer home what we can do to stop this, why this is important, why we need to speak. I want to leave, call to action to people, like kind of, sort of, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just have conversation just to have conversation. Like, y'all, this is cool conversation, but if, we don't leave with calls of action and where people can do, what they need to do and why, then, we just chilling. We could have been in my backyard having a beer and did this, you know what I mean? So,
give it to him, Tiff. Tell him what's up.
And I was gonna say, give it to him, Louis. All right, so that team. This is teamwork at its best. What we want you to do, the plan of action. Go to www.nyirc.gov/participate, and we got /participate #submit testimony. Go and submit your testimony. Go register. You got to wait a few days. Be patient. Register and submit those testimonies. Flood them with testimony as to why we want to keep these beautiful communities of interest intact. Flood them with this. Go on, go participate. Go testify in person. November 8th, White Plains. November 9th in the Bronx, and November 10th in Manhattan. You can do this. And for those folks who, are not so technically savvy and can't go in person, you can also do it via mail to the Independent Redistricting Commission at 250 Broadway, 22nd floor, New York, 10007.
I pulled up the page and I'm just going to reiterate what Tiffany just said. There's 3 ways you can participate, everyone. You can, after logging in, you can submit your comments. You can also, if you're especially ambitious and a technocrat, you can devise your own map using publicly available tools that you can access through the Commission's website. And also, you can sign up to attend a meeting. Know that AJ and I have plans on attending a meeting. I don't know, AJ, if we were saying the one at White Plains, maybe. But whatever you do, everyone, we encourage you to be involved in some way. As we've all said, democracy is a participatory sport. If you are not participating, we are bound to lose.
Absolutely. We can't continue to complain about stuff if we're not going to do nothing about it. If you're not voting, you can't complain about who's in office and why and what's going on. You didn't fill out the census, you can't complain about your city not getting enough money. You don't testify at these things and show the importance of why they shouldn't change these lines to what we said, then you can't complain when the effects of that come down. You have to be, and I keep quoting Obama, you have to be the change you want to see. You have to do it. It's you. You have to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have the power. And we have to realize everyone else knows we have so much power other than us. We have to realize the power we have. We have to utilize it. I want to keep banging that home, but that's what it is.
I mean, we lost this one. New York lost this one congressional seat just off of 80, 83, 86 responses. We were short 83, 86 responses on the census. If we just had those, we would have kept the congressional seats and we wouldn't have to necessarily be devising and chopping up the map, our New York State map, as we are right now. So the participation of each and every individual is important. Every vote, every testimony matters.
And those who they are counting on us not doing anything. They're counting on that. So those contrarians, and be contrary, do the opposite of what they want you to do. If you're a contrarian, I want you to know that you're really leaning into what they want you to do when you do nothing. So do something. Testify online, in person, or via mail. Do something.
And I want to also, while it's election time, even though a lot of races are determined during the primary, go out and vote, whether it's early voting or on election day. They pay attention to the numbers of the people that are voting. Go out and vote. Even if your person is running unopposed, they won the primary, they don't have a general election candidate, opponent, go out and vote. And just because you haven't heard that they had an opponent doesn't mean they don't. There's a lot of Republicans running in all these seats. County legislator, several county exec, several county legislative seats, Yonkers and the Yonkers City Council president seat. There's a lot of Republicans running right now. So just because the Democrat won the primary, they're not out of the woods yet. So make sure we go out and vote. That's another thing. You know, we always talk about change, and everybody's not going to be on the front line, and everybody doesn't want to protest. This is one of the voting, filling out your census, testifying to stuff like this. These are some of the most peaceful ways to protest and get your voices heard and for change. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you know, we don't know. We're not all going to be. A lot of y'all ain't going to be out in the front. They don't want to be out there, Black Lives Matter and all that, and you know, clash with the police and all that. This is as powerful, but you can do this. A lot of this stuff from your home, or you know, the voting thing by yourself. Like, you know, nobody knows it's you. We have to do these things. Absolutely. Anybody else? We got 7-11. We got some time left. Anything I didn't say that we wanna bring home? Bob, you got any charts or data you want to show?
No, AJ, it took me. You see, I've been struggling, brother. I haven't finished anything up, so unfortunately, I don't have any charts to show.
Well, let me do this. I started off with this video. I just want to play this video one more time, just to bring it home. This is what we're talking about: redistricting. Just for those who like, what the hell is redistricting? Let's just to the simplest.
What exactly is redistricting? Let's go to the map. Redistricting is the process by which new congressional and state legislative district boundaries are drawn. Districts are political divisions from which United States representatives and state legislators are elected. District lines are redrawn every 10 years following completion of the United States Census. In most states, the legislatures are primarily responsible for redistricting. Reformers believe that lawmakers redraw state district lines with political interest in the outcome. Instead, reformers advocate using different redistricting processes, including independent apolitical commissions. Others maintain that alternative processes are less accountable to voters and are still subject to partisan abuse. Redistricting is often challenged due to gerrymandering, the practice of drawing district lines to favor one political party, individual, or constituency over another. Political parties sometimes draw district lines for their own benefit, instead of being proportional and creating fair representation. Additionally, district lines can potentially minimize the influence of minority voters by disproportionately consolidating them within single districts or splitting them across several districts. You can obtain more information on redistricting by visiting ballotpedia.org.
I wanted to show that again. I mean, that's a very simple explanation of what we're talking about. And two ways of, if you have strong Black presence all through the area, they can put you all into one district so you don't have to say about no other district. And if you have a district that is very strong, they can break you up and separate you so you have less say in that district. Those are two things, and that's what we're talking about here, breaking up a district so African Americans have less say. So they're trying to they're proposing taking 11, 12% of the Black voters out and adding 10 to 12% of white voters. Hispanics are not really changing that much, and Asians really didn't change that much. They all went up a percentage. They all increased a percentage or something. But the two things is the diminishing of the Black vote and trading it with white votes. So making African Americans as a whole have a lot less say in this district, because I mean, places like Mount Vernon are very, the Democrats, anybody who's running for governor or anything, they all got to come here. Why? Because Mount Vernon is a very strong Democratic stronghold for Democrats. So they got to come see Mount Vernon. They got to come see Yonkers. They got to come. You know what I'm saying? So together, Mount Vernon, Yonkers, the Northeast Bronx. That's the other part. The Northeast Bronx. That 10 to 12% is the majority of that is the Northeast Bronx. Your co-op and all of that area right outside Mount Vernon, right outside Yonkers. That's the Northeast Bronx. You know what I'm saying? And there are a lot of us there. There have various times, even though I'm from Mount Vernon, I've lived across the borderline a few times. You know what I'm saying? Because it was easy for me to get, a spot there. You know what I'm saying? Price-wise. I've also lived in Rochelle. You know what I'm saying? My mom's has also lived in Yonkers for a minute. So, we, like Bob, we sometimes go from one to the other. A lot of us have family members in all of these different places. So, or we work. Like Bob lives in Yonkers now, and he works in the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? We travel these areas. So, it makes a difference. We got 15 minutes. I want to wrap it up. I want to wrap it up strong. Go ahead, Bob. I didn't give you a chance to go ahead.
I was just going to say, just so everyone's clear as they're considering the ways in which the voting lines violate the integrity of our community of interest in the Northeast Bronx and South Westchester. I want to go back to the point that Tiffany made about the hospitals, because here in the city of Mount Vernon, we have been waging a ferocious fight to preserve the Mount Vernon Hospital.
To save and transform the hospital.
Yes. And the reason why is because the large healthcare corporations have essentially transformed the local healthcare market over the past decade or so through buyouts, consolidations of various kinds, such that Mount Vernonites face the inevitable prospect that we're going to have to leave the city's boundaries in order to get some of our most important healthcare, including emergency healthcare. And one of the things that having a congressman whose district includes the Northeast Bronx is that those are many of the hospitals that people from Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, and Yonkers, especially young brothers who's running the street and get seriously injured, will necessarily have to go through in order to receive life-saving care. And we're not going up to White Plains. That's a scheduled visit that occurs weeks in advance. We need a congressperson who understands that the way the healthcare market has developed, that they've got to advocate for changes that are going to make sure, even if Mount Vernon Hospital continues to undergo a reduction in its services, at least a nearby hospital will get some extra fundings if it can't be turned around.
I want to go a step further. So a little bit off the redistricting and specifically on the hospital. So the reason why it's important to keep this district together, Congressman Jamal Bowman is over this district. Montefiore specifically has brought up Mount Vernon Hospital, New Rochelle Hospital, and several other hospitals in Yonkers. They're actually moving. And when they came to Mount Vernon, their plan was to divert all the ambulance to New Rochelle and the Bronx, and then show the state, look, they're not even using the hospital. That's why we want to close it. They did a study showing that we have more health disease as far as heart disease, diabetes, and all those kind of things here, and got additional funding, but did not put that money in Mount Vernon Hospital, put it into their other hospitals. We have no trauma unit. We have a lot of shootings and stuff here. People, whereas time's of the essence, they got to be drove to the Bronx or wherever. You know what I'm saying? People dying on the way where they couldn't go to their local hospital. You're having a heart attack or something, time is of the essence, being driven to New Rochelle or to the Bronx or whatever. But if you break up the district, now you have two different congressmen. when we want to attack a multi-billion-dollar business like Montefiore from doing what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Now I gotta talk to two different congressmen. You have one congressman over this whole area. You know what I'm saying? It's very powerful. You know, he can monitor certain things, and he has a lot more control. And there's a lot of this going on. They want to get rid of the Mount Vernon Hospital and give us some urgent care, make us urgent care. A city who loses a hospital is no longer a city. Studies have shown cities who have lost hospitals normally do not ever get a new hospital. You understand what I'm saying? Why does that, if you're not in Mount Vernon, you say, oh, that don't bother me. Why does that bother you? Because now all your area hospitals nearby are going to be extra flooded because there's no hospital here.
Right.
Which we saw during COVID. All the hospitals was crazy flooded. You know, so I just wonder, I'm on the Save and Transform Mount Vernon Hospital committee. And any chance I get to speak about that, I just wanted to specifically, and a chance to call Montefiore out by name. I just specifically wanted to do that. But back to our regularly scheduled program.
You got that in.
Now I want to. Our next guest is actually running for city council in on the working family line. She's very invested in a lot of the stuff going on. I wanted. She doesn't come on for another 10 minutes, but I just want to get her in now to see if she has anything to say about redistricting. Welcome to the show, Lauren Carter, former Mount Vernon City Clerk and a Democrat on the Working Family Party's line for City Council. I don't know how much of the conversation you've heard, and I don't know how much you've been paying attention to the whole process of what this redistricting is since census, and I just wanted to know if you had any, since you know you were on a little early, if you had any thoughts or comments to anything we've been talking about.
Well, greetings, everyone, and I'm glad to be here this evening. Thank you for inviting me. I did hear a few minutes of it. I apologize. I was coming from another event, but I am familiar with the process. You know, we had our census, and every 10 years, you know, we could be redrawn. Our district lines can be redrawn. But I will say that I did hear the part about folks getting involved and attending meetings to make sure that our voices are heard. I think that is very important, because one of the problems that we have is that we vote and then we don't do anything else. We have to stay on top of our officials, our elected officials. We have to stay informed about proposals in our communities. We have to stay informed about things going on in our community so that we can put pressure on the officials in order to make decisions that will benefit the communities that they serve. It doesn't stop at just voting for a person, because that's why a lot of times we see corruption, we see mismanagement, we see all of that, because we, the people, have dropped the baton. We have not stayed involved. So I will just add to that please, we definitely have to stay involved. We have to stay informed. So thank you for bringing this to our attention, to your viewers' attention, because it is an important issue, an important matter.
So Louis and Tiffany, we got another about 7 minutes. Whatever I didn't ask you about this whole redistricting, anything else that we need to nail home? Again, let's say where these places are, what the dates are again. Let's keep saying the website again. I'll put it up again. And anything I didn't ask you that you want to throw in, closing down this show, I want to leave on a strong note, like why we need to do this, like why this is important. Why should people that's just chilling in the house right now watching, why should they even care about this?
Mm-hmm.
To your point, like you said, AJ, right? Billions of dollars are dictated just in terms of hospital funding alone from our census. And so as we're moving forward and we're thinking about what are the needs of our community, what are the needs of our districts, we have to make sure that we're thinking with some kind of strategy, right? What are the coalitions? What are the people that we need to connect with to make sure that those happen? And right now, as we're looking at the state of affairs in our district, we need to make sure that we're connecting with folks that are going through similar situations like us. And so for me, being a Mount Vernon resident, I have a lot of ideology and common interests as those that are in Co-op City. How am I connecting with folks in those areas to make sure that they are part of this process? I'm going to be sending out text messages. I'm also going to be doing a webinar with the congressman with as his campaign side, on his campaign side, so folks in the district are able to get the message about how they can also actually get involved in the process and fill out those forms, those online testimonies. So I'll be glad to share that with you, AJ, and if you can share that out with your guests, we would love for them to join us on that webinar where we'll be going through the process, and I'll make sure that Tiffany's doing more talking than me for that one. Making sure folks are able to just understand how to actually fill out those online testimonies, because we want them to make sure that we can get hundreds of those into the inboxes of the commissioners so that they have our voice, our needs in their minds as they're making and redrawing these maps and giving these recommendations over to the state. This is a very unique time and process because originally we just had state legislators that were redrawing this map. This is the first time that we actually have an independent commission that is doing the front end of the legwork of redrawing these maps. So we want to make sure that we are helping them out in the process by giving them our testimonies, by giving them our desired needs and desired wants for our district.
Yeah. So I just want to say, why is this important, right? You care about yourselves, you care about your families, your children, your parents. We want to make sure that we all have the opportunities that are afforded to us as citizens of this country, citizens of this community. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we do whatever we need to do to ensure that, the hospitals, that there are accessibility to hospitals, that we have people that are champion for racial equity and justice, that our infrastructure, that we have, we're able to commute to and from work and to be able to make a living for our families. We want to make sure that we are not in food deserts, that we have opportunities to raise our families on healthy, give them healthy access to healthy foods. These are all things that, it's all about what we're going to do with our community, and we are empowered to do it. So stop letting people take our power. We say that we're kings and queens. Lean into that and truly believe that we are, and make sure that we are making our voices heard, and that we are our voices and our votes are not gerrymandered. So go to www.nyirc.gov/participate and submit your testimony. Thank you.
That's right. You got to remember that disengagement is a tactic. We have to rise above, right? We have to be persistent. We have to make sure that we're engaged and having a strong voice in the process. So you have Monday, November 8th. That's here in White Plains. You can go to the Pace Law School to give that hearing at 3 p.m. Then you have the 9th in the Bronx. And then on the 10th, that's going to be at Hunter College in the cafeteria there. Now, 20 years ago, the hearings were all in the morning at 10 a.m. They have brought it down and made it a little bit more convenient where it's now in the afternoon. It's 3 p.m. It's still during work hours, but it's a little better. Be persistent, get out there, make sure your voice is heard. And if you need some help in the process, you can hit up Tiffany.
And thank you, AJ and Dr. Bob, for giving us this platform to get the word out and to educate the community. Thank you so much, Lauren. Wish you well. And thank you all so much.
Yeah, I just want to say in closing, that's why we do this show, to get this kind of information out is very important. Even when it's not the sexy topics that, bring everybody in and everybody wants to talk about, we need to be talking about that, and hopefully we do that. As I titled this episode, Redistricting 101, the people should pick their politicians, not the other way around, right? If we've for far too long, the politicians have been picking their voters. We have a chance to stop that, and the voters pick their politicians. And I just want to leave it there. I want to leave it there. I want to thank y'all for coming. And yes, please keep me in touch with everything that y'all are doing. Tiffany, I just want to say before I leave too. So Bob and I, we got Tiffany got on our radar. One conversation with her, I was like, oh, this is a passionate sister that's out there making it happen. We have to have her on the show. This is my first time actually seeing her in person. I'm very pleased to meet both of y'all. Lewis, I've seen you before. We actually go to the same church. I go to St. Tenniel too. I live around the corner. But I've seen you before. Yeah, I've actually seen you before when you was like, yeah, I know that guy's from somewhere. So good to see you. Thank you very much. We're about to go into our next guest. And I want to thank you for taking the time to come through this and keep us alerted of everything you're doing so we can keep sharing it.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much, AJ. You got some football to watch. Y'all have a good evening, though.
All right, no doubt.
Absolutely. Pleasure.
Blessings.
You are now tuned into the People Before Politics radio show, brought to you by the good folks at
Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Check the newspaper. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Black Westchester. Check the newspaper.
Real talk for the community since 2014.
Yeah.
Yes. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 320. Our first portion of the show, we were dealing with redistricting. Dealing with people should pick their politicians. Voters should pick their volunteers, not the other way around. For too long, elected officials, politicians have been picking their voters. And a lot of that is through redistricting, and we wanted to get that in. Now, for the second part of the show, we have friend of the show, Miss Lauren Carter, former Mount Vernon deputy city clerk. I said clerk before. Deputy clerk. She's put in a lot of work in Mount Vernon. She ran in the primary. She is a Democrat, but she is running in the general election on the Working Family Party line. Working Family Party often picks Democrats that they feel are more in line with their progressive agenda, and they have endorsed Miss Lauren Carter. She will be on the ballot in the general election. This general election coming up. We got early voting starting in about the 23rd, and then you have the election on what day is the election?
November 2nd.
Tuesday, November 2nd. So welcome back to the show. The last look at Lauren Carter. Why should now? I want to ask you. Okay, so most Democrats. And I've seen that here with the cities, especially. But overall, most Democrats, when there's a primary, they vote for who they vote for, and then going into the general election, anybody who's not the one who won in the primary, I've seen those campaigns try to color the person as not a Democrat, like you're not a Democrat no more. You're just coming in from another party or whatever. I want you to explain you are a Democrat. You're running on the Working Family Party, and reintroduce you to those who may not know you.
Yes. Well, first of all, may I just say kudos to Lewis and Tiffany for being on the show, bringing all of this to our attention, and for their passion, their commitment. Now, for those of you who may not know me, as AJ said, I'm Lauren Carter. I am a candidate for City Council in the general election. And I'm a Democrat running on the Working Families Party line. I am in the race. I'm still in the race because Mount Vernon really has so many challenges. We know what they are. We know about our aging sewer system. There's a crumbling infrastructure here. We have police officers leaving in droves, leaving our community susceptible to increased crime. because sometimes the criminals know that there may not be a quick response from our police officers. Police officers are leaving in droves. I've spoken to fire personnel. They're next. They said they're next to start leaving the city. We have so many challenges that we need someone that can get into office and hit the ground running from day one. I have the experience. I worked for the city for over 17 years, started in planning, and then moved over to work for the legislative branch for the city council. And I really believe that I'm the best person for the job. Of the people that are running for city council, I truly believe I'm the best one for the job. I've been working in the community for 30 years, silently at times, whether it was against protesting against Black on Black violence that, we experienced in the 90s, volunteering at not-for-profits and civic organizations, faith-based organizations here in Mount Vernon, paying it forward, helping people. I've been on the ground working, and people know me. They know that I'm a service-oriented individual, that I'm not in this to be a celebrity. I'm not in this for fame or title, to take up a seat. But I'm in this because Mount Vernon needs help. And I know that with my background in policy and planning, I can help this city.
Now I want to say something. And this is no disrespect to any other candidate in the race. We see candidates run together on tickets.
Yes.
Sometimes, and I'm not saying that's happening now, but sometimes we've seen one or two candidates sneak in who were just in because they were on a ticket. And again, we're not speaking about anybody in particular, but I've seen that in the past at Mount Vernon, and I will not go back and name names. There's no, I've had those conversations with those individuals. I've always on Black Westchester, pretty much it pisses off everybody who runs on a ticket. I don't believe that we should just go for tickets. I think we should go and vote for best people in every position. Yeah. So we have three people that won the primary and they're on a ticket. And you're also running as well. You're not running against any of them. You're running for one of the three seats. Yeah. Talk about why, now I've heard, now let me be real. You said people know you, and let me be real. A lot of people, I knew some people that they really didn't know you. There was other candidates that had more extensive campaigns and more, got out more. I guess they got the word more out, social media, whatever. There were some people, they knew that you were the deputy clerk. They knew they've seen you around, but they didn't know you. You know what I'm saying? So to those people, what do you say?
To the people that didn't know me, I will say that, as I said before, I'm a service-oriented individual. I know that a person who is working for government, whether they're an elected official, an appointed official, or civil service personnel, we're all public servants. We're there to serve the public. So I'm not in it for self-interest or self-gain. I'm in this because Mount Vernon right now, the city is facing some very challenging situations, and we need experienced, emotionally intelligent people to get in. And more importantly, we need folks that are uncompromised and people that will be an independent thinker. And when I say an independent thinker, some folks will say, oh, you want to do your own thing. No, I don't want to be an obstructionist. That's not who I am. But I also don't want to be a rubber stamp. In democracy, in society, there has to be a discussion and healthy debate, because no two people are going to agree on everything. It is unrealistic to think that because a certain ticket ran together, whatever ticket it is, and they say, oh, well, all the fighting will stop and, all the disagreements. No, because you have households that don't agree. You have husband and wives that don't agree.
You have no idea. You have no idea how many times me and Dr. Bob don't agree, and me and David don't agree. But behind the scenes, the stuff that y'all will never get to see. But yeah.
Well, yeah, you keep it behind closed doors, right? Yeah. Behind the camera. But that's the key. That's what the officials have to do. But it's unrealistic to think that people are not going to disagree. But the key is to have a debate, a healthy debate, and a discussion on the issues. And I will say on compromise, because that's one of the reasons why the Working Families Party endorsed me, because I said I'm not going to accept money from super PACs. That's the question they ask, or special interest groups or lobbyists, whatever the case may be. So that way, when I'm in office, I'm not beholden to those groups. I'm beholden to the people. And so we see a lot of times that certain things can't get done because people's hands are tied. They took money from certain people and certain groups, and now they can't vote certain ways that are right because that's being held over their head.
So let me ask you. One of our listeners asked a question. I'm gonna kind of remix it a little bit. Basically, so you even though you didn't run on a ticket with other people, and even though 3 people told you how great they can work together, you're going to have to rely on working relationships with different people. So you can't, because one vote, you can't get anything done. You know what I'm saying? To get what you want done. Can you work? One of the problems that we've seen so far in Mount Vernon, and since Black Westchester has been in existence for 7 years, if you count Andre Wallace, we've had 4 mayors, 1, 2, 3, 4. We've had, not counting the 3 these 3 positions right now, up to this point, we've had 13 or 14 individuals in city council, and we've had 2 controllers. And every time in every election, your Richard Thomas told us that he could work with everybody. Sean Patterson Howard said she would be the person to bring things back to normal, kind of like Biden and everything. Every council person that runs was talking about they can work with everybody. But there has been a civil war in City Hall that has not only didn't get better, it has gotten worse. Mm-hmm. You were clerk on and some of that time, deputy clerk some of that time, so some people that are on the council, well, I think 1 left. If you'd have to work with one who was trying to get you out as deputy clerk. So I want you to answer, can you work with, why should people vote for you? Can you work with the other people? Can you, move in and out and get things done? So far we haven't seen too much of that in the 7 years that Black Westchester has been in existence.
Well, again, I have a track record of being able to work with all of those, and thank you for the stats, those 4 mayors, those 13 council people, those 2 controllers that we had. I'm the one with the track record of being able to work well with everyone. People that worked with me, they know that I went into City Hall and I got the job done. I did what I was supposed to do. When the public came for, they had questions or they had concerns, they needed assistance, that's what I was there for. That's what I did. And if I didn't have the answers, I would refer them to who could help them. So I have the track record of being able to work with everyone. Now, there's one thing for people to say they can do it, but do you know if they can? Even the ticket that is saying that they can work well with one another, how do we know that? Just because they said it? Have they worked with each other before? I don't think they have. So they can say that when they're running, but it's totally different once you get into the seat. So, I mean, and it's not just me that people should question that. They should also question the folks that are running, because I don't think that they have a history of working together. So how do we know that they can do it just because they told us and because they ran on a ticket together? No. And certainly, as you said, one of the council people who may have had a hand in me being fired, yes, I can work with that person as well. Because for me, I see things as opportunities, as stepping stones. So all that did was help me to see that I need to be going to the next level. So really, that was a hand in helping me to do what I'm doing, to go back and complete my master's in planning, which was a passion that I have. And a lot of the issues you talked about, those are centered around planning. I mean, you need planners, which we really don't have many in Mount Vernon. We have a part-time planner. These are the things that planners will address, making sure that we have infrastructure in our community, whether they're roads, making sure that we have transportation that is accessible, that is resilient because of the climate crises that we're in. Planners are at the forefront of this. So I'm bringing that experience, that background, and a person who's emotionally intelligent and has a track record of being able to work with folks inside and outside of City Hall. Federal, I had to, communicate with folks on the federal level, certainly the state level and county level. I have that track record. So
I've heard you talk about, your experience in planning. And I've actually heard some of the critics say we're not electing you to be. We're electing you to city council, not to the planning department. Sound like she want to work for the planning department. I want you to explain why you feel your experience in planning would make you a good city council person.
Well, to be honest with you, AJ, I was the one that said that, because there's another candidate that also has a master's in planning, and that was the focus that he mentioned a lot. And I was the one that said I'm running to be a council person, not the planning commissioner. Mm-hmm. But I believe that because of the issues that we face, we need folks that can help with a plan. That's the problem that we have in Mount Vernon. We have no plans, whether it's a comprehensive plan, which is a land use plan, whether it's an economic development plan, whether it's a strategic plan. We have no plans. Everything in Mount Vernon is willy-nilly. It's just haphazard. We just do it because we do it. Or we're reactionary. We're reacting to a crisis. We're reacting to a problem instead of being proactive and planning it. And my program is my school. Well, my degree is in the School of Public Policy. See, there's certain schools. Planning may be in the architecture school. Planning may be in the social work school or social service school. But my program is in the policy school. So I'm bringing that policy background as well, where we are looking at the problems and we're coming up with solutions, utilizing tools, whether they're economic development tools, whatever tools we're using collaborative governance, because that's the way that our society is moving. In order to be a successful municipality, we need to have a collaborative governance where we are working not just because the elected officials don't have all the answers. We need to work with the private sector. We need to work with civic organizations and faith-based organizations. We even need to work with philanthropic organizations to be able to solve the issues we have. And so I believe that my background and my experience can really help us. And as you said, I would be one vote, but I would be one vote that would help to move us in the right direction. And that's why I said before, even with regard to redistricting, it doesn't stop with the vote. The people of Mount Vernon have to demand better. You have to come out to the meetings, continue to be engaged and involved, and demand what's right from your elected officials. I know that many people in Mount Vernon are just disillusioned. They're frustrated. They've given up. But I just want to encourage you to please just to continue to fight. As I said yesterday at my rally, to save Mount Vernon, because it's not about us. It's about the collective community and also for future generations.
I apologize. I heard about your rally late. I wanted to go, knowing you was going to be on the show. I wanted to go see if I can get a quick video and play that on the part of the show. One of the listeners said a city is a multi-tiered element. Therefore, a city needs a plan. A planner helps because they can understand a city is more than just housing. But one of the things that intrigued me when I first saw you, and it might have even been an interview of mine with you, but I've heard you speak on it. One of my favorite lines, you can hear music going by in front of my house. Yeah. So one of the things I love the play Hamilton. And in the play, there's this line talking about in the room where it happens. Everybody wants to be in the room where it happens. One of the things that I heard you articulate, you've been in the room where it happens, but you was on the wrong side of the table. So you were the person who documented everything. And now that you've been there for a while and you see how things run, you now want to be on the other side where you can actually create the legislation, not just document the legislation other people were creating. I thought that was pretty interesting. I wanted to know if you wanted to speak on that. And then Bob, I know Bob probably has a question or two for you.
Okay. Yeah. So as a matter of fact, I was on your show on WVOX almost a year. Yeah, almost a year ago. Wow, it's been a long journey. And you asked me a question, and I said, yeah, the firing let me see that, like I said before, it was an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to take the experience I have and to be able to help the city with the challenges that we face. So yes, that I was on I won't even say I was on the wrong side, because that side helped me to grow to be the person I am, help me to have the experience and the knowledge that I have. But now it's time for me to not just support the decision makers and make them look good, but also to be a person who is a decision maker.
And if I said wrong side, let me pull that back. You were on the side where you documented what the legislators voted on. You know what I'm saying? You documented everything that they did, and you've done that for years, and you documented that process, and now you want to, take that knowledge of how that works, and now you're on the side of where legislation actually made.
I documented, and I also did research. I did research for them to be able to pass the legislation that they passed. I helped them to draft certain legislation. So yes, that experience helped me.
Dr. Bob.
So welcome to the show, Miss Carter. I was going to say, I've been playing a Lil Wayne lyric in chorus. Hey, Mrs. Carter.
Oh, yeah.
I think about that for about 15 minutes now. So, of course, it's wonderful to see you. Before I ask my question, Ms. Carter, I have to tell you that I've always been impressed by your steadfast, sure work ethic and poise over the past couple of years. AJ and I have had an opportunity to visit many offices in the Mount Vernon city government during a time of great tumult. And I think one thing would agree upon, we've never seen you conduct yourself anything other than a total professional. And as a matter of fact, since you announced your entrance into the race, one of the things that I've been pleased to see is how you have, in fact, grown and expanded now from being in a support role to actually being a exponent of important public policy issues. And my question is a simple one. Now that we have seen 2 years of Mayor Patterson Howard's administration, what are some of the policies where you think independent mindedness is required? Maybe policy proposals that you think the city needs to consider if it's going to address the important challenges that really have not been placed on the public agenda by the mayor, or presumably by the slate of candidates that she would prefer to see elected, because they will be supporting her policies.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of the policies that we need to see would be, number one, we need to get the sewers fixed. So what's the plan to fix the infrastructure here? It needs to be drawn out. It needs to be drawn out for the federal government. I know that at one point that was being worked on, but I don't know if that's still the case. I don't believe it's still the case, because why I don't believe it's the case is because we've been threatened with fines by the federal government, the DOJ. And at one point, the city was making progress where the fines were not on the table, because the federal government, they don't want to harm us. They don't want to hurt the city. But they just want to make sure that we get the work done. We have pollution that is seeping into our waterways, the Bronx River, the Hutchinson River. So they want that to be remediated, and rightfully so. We should all want that. But when there's no plan and when they're not seeing progress, then the fines are back on the table. So because the fines are back on the table, that means that the progress that had been made has ended, has stopped. So we need to get that, and we really need to get, you know, I'm not saying this about anyone or disparaging anyone, but we need to get qualified folks in positions so that they can do these jobs. Yes, sometimes we have to call on consultants, but they shouldn't be the primary the people that have the primary responsibility. It should be the people that are working at City Hall. So let's get qualified folks. Now, I can't make that decision because the mayor runs the day to day. The mayor hires, but certainly let's get the infrastructure completed. It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. We just have to have people that are really willing to do it. We can get grants from the EPA, from the DEC. They already tried to give us grants. We can borrow up to our allocation, our CDBG allocation from HUD. It can be done. There's so many ways to do it. We just have to have people that know what to do and are willing to do it. One of the problems is we have to open up our books. We have to open up the books of the Urban Renewal Agency if we want to get those monies. And some folks don't want to do it. I don't know why. Open the books for the URA so we can get allocations in here to get the sewers fixed. It's not that difficult.
Dr. Bob.
I had something.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So, there's one thing I want to emphasize here, everyone. And I don't think our viewers should fail to seriously grapple with what I'm about to say. You know, Ms. Carter, if there was ever an instance of unqualified persons contributing to the problems of a city or organization, it has to be the recent set of persons who have served on the Mount Vernon City Council. Everyone, you know, one of the main sources of contention over the past 4 years has been a failure of anyone on the city council who seem to know what the hell needs to be done about much of anything. Mm-hmm. And one of the, I think, strongest recommendations from Ms. Carter is precisely because she has such a long tenure as deputy city clerk. She not only understands the administrative rules, but she also has a good handle on the process of actually writing legislation and has had an opportunity to see that. And I have to say, and you know, I think a lot of myself. I'm going to be honest. I think I'm a pretty learned guy. I'm never shy from saying that. But, you know, learning requires effort. And one of the things that I'm not seeing is people who actually in recent years have been elected into city council actually have any kind of experience working in local government. And with maybe one exception, you know, that's the case with the current set of candidates who are running on the Democratic slate. And I think it would be unfortunate if the residents of Mount Vernon did not give your candidacy the close look it deserves, precisely because your resume is so strong, especially in the area of city government.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. And if I may add to that, I will say that we, you know, and I say this on the campaign trail, I don't mean to disparage anyone, but I always say, you know, we have too many problems to put people in office that really don't know anything. They don't know how government operates. I always say, if this was a place like Scarsdale or Pelham, where they don't have any issues, you just go in there and make sure you got a budget. It's fine. You don't need to have experience, but the problems we have, I just gave you an example about allocating CDBG funds and things like that. And a lot of things I said in the campaign trail, some of the other candidates did was just copy what I said, but they don't know what they're talking about. They just sounded whatever. It sounded good, I guess, but they don't know how to execute on it. Like you said, Dr. Bob, I think it would be really, really unfortunate if the folks of Mount Vernon did not, like you said, consider my candidacy and what I can bring, considering all the challenges that we have in this city.
And I gotta say, your proposal just now is an excellent example of the way that a background of experience and knowledge can really not only serve a newly incoming city council member well, but also the city of Mount Vernon as a whole, because AJ and I and so many other people who tune into the show and who live in the city of Mount Vernon have been absolutely frustrated about the state of financial disorder that is threatening Mount Vernon's financial stability. And we really do need people. We have major immediate problems that are going to be confronting our incoming council members on the first day that they enter into office.
Yes.
I think everyone must anticipate that with the swearing of the new controller, that within a week or two, we're going to see that our finances are in terrible shape, and we need competent people who know the rules, who know the players, but who also have understanding of where some of the creative problem solutions lie to our problems. And I think what you just shared with us was an excellent example of why people must seriously consider Lauren Carter.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
I mean, listen, and I'm only saying it, Ms. Carter, because because experience tells me this is so.
Thank you.
Right? A lot of times, I just want to also say this, because during the past 4 years, we know that too many people in Mount Vernon city government have devolved to the same level of immaturity that was on display at some of the worst chapters in the past. And you know what? I'm there. I'm sort of a little bit of a journalism guy. I talk to people, whether it's in public or in private. You've always comported yourself professionally, and I think we, would get more of that. And I think that's we're sorely lacking that at present.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bob. I was also going to say something, and like you, it slipped my mind. But I was going to add, also, we have a lot of lawsuits. And that's one of the reasons. See, and people used to complain that the controller wasn't paying the bills. But what they didn't recognize, and I'm not making excuses for her, but what they didn't recognize was that there was no money to pay a lot of the bills. So she was faced with the challenge or the task of, am I going to pay the salaries or am I going to pay the bills? Now, and it was because I was in government, I knew that we didn't have money. That's the reason why I knew. But even the state controller verified that in a letter to the city in April. They said this budget that you produced really is not an accurate budget. You've overstated your revenues. You've added revenues that are not reoccurring. They're one-time revenues. That's not the way a budget is produced. And the state controller said, if you guys are not careful with how you spend your money, you could run out of money before the end of the year. Now, that's why some bills weren't being paid. But what saved us was the $21 million of ARP monies that came down from the federal government. That's what saved Mount Vernon. If it wasn't for those monies, we would have ran out of money by now. We have a $6 million lawsuit that was granted to, I believe it was $4 million, to Gizzo. You just had now another a person that got a lawsuit. We still have Keela Tennis.
Wait. For everybody who don't know, Gizzo is the owner of Sue's, right? That's Gizzo, right?
I think that's the same Gizzo, but
I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah. But the lawsuit wasn't for Sue. The lawsuit was for on Broad Street, where he had the supermarket. And yeah. So there are so many lawsuits, and the insurance people say, "Oh, the insurance is not paying some of these lawsuits. The insurance company is not going to pay for Keela Tennis, not when."
Did Mega Beverage just win too, or Mega Beverage had?
this one, yeah, I think it's going to be about $4 million by the time his attorney's fees are paid, because the city has to pay his attorney fees. I mean, and Keeler Tennis, the insurance is not going to cover that, because officials went in and destroyed property. You know, how can the insurance company pay for what an official did? So I mean,
it's on camera.
And this is why we need seasoned, experienced, knowledgeable council persons, because when the Thomas administration undertook a lot of these controversial actions, he was warned by many outside of city government that he was getting the city in for trouble. And we would likely pay a very hefty fine. And he was free to ignore it, in part because I don't think the residents of Mount Vernon had confidence that any of the city council members actually had an authoritative knowledge about what the constraints on his, mayor's his duty, his powers as mayor were. But if we would have had someone, a voice like your own, who had actually had an opportunity to see the dealings of the city government before and how these things played out, we might have avoided several of these very unfortunate actions that the mayor took that is going to cost, it seems like, by which I mean former Mayor Richard Thomas, that's going to cost the city probably, seems like we're looking about $10 million.
Oh yeah,
4 or 5 different actions.
Minimum of 10. You're right. And I will say that perhaps maybe 1 or 2 council people were in favor of addressing these situations. But again, if you don't have a majority vote, that's why it goes back to your question, AJ, you're 1 vote. And I will recognize that. That's why I would let the public know what's going on, so that the public can also put pressure on the council people to do what's right. Let them know what the laws are, what the charter says, what action was taken, and what needs to be done. So this way the public is also getting involved.
So I want to, we actually went overtime, but that's not a problem because we're not in the studio. We can actually do that. But I wanted to give you a chance, last words. I wanted to first thank you for coming on the show. I want to give you a chance for any last words, why people should vote for you. Anybody who still does not know you, wants to contact you, social media, website, anything like that. I want to give you a chance to do all that and give your last words why people should vote for you in the next election, the upcoming election.
Yep, I'm glad that I have been a guest now, officially a guest on People Before Politics. I've watched, but my first time being a guest. So thank you for having me on. And yes, early voting starts this Saturday, October 23rd. It ends on Sunday, October 31st. And the election, the last day to vote is Tuesday, November 2nd. The reason you want to vote for Lauren Carter is because you want to vote for a person who is a public servant. I'm not in it for a title and to be a celebrity and to get money. No. I just want to help this community. I'm passionate about Mount Vernon. A lot of people have lost hope, and I want to help restore the hope to the city. And I'm bringing experience that we so desperately need. I'm bringing competence, someone who knows how to get the job done and can get the job done. I'm bringing an independent voice, someone who's not compromised by outside interests and outside influence, so that I can be beholden to you, the people of Mount Vernon. You're electing someone that has a proven track record. Even if you don't know me, you didn't know me. There are people that I'm sure you know that may have had to have contact with me when they had to get service at City Hall, whether they came to a council meeting. So I have a track record of being able to work with people and having emotional intelligence. These are some of the many reasons you want to vote for me. To learn more, you can go to my website, lauren4citycouncil.com. That's LAUREN, the word 4, citycouncil.com. And Facebook is Lauren for City Council. Instagram is Lauren for City Council. You can get a link to all of my social media pages from my website.
Any last words for our guest, Dr. Bob?
No, Miss Carter, it's a pleasure seeing you finally on air, and I wish you luck. One last thing I will say, though. In addition to all of the personal qualities that Miss Carter has demonstrated over the years that demands that we give her a fair look in her quest for city council, another reason why I think we must seriously consider Miss Carter's candidacy is because she's running on the working family parties line at a time when the Democratic Party in the city of Mount Vernon has had a long-standing stranglehold on our politics. And while I most certainly detest Republicans at this point, the lack of competition, and I want to make that very clear, detest. AJ isn't otherwise. But the lack of competition for the votes in the city of Mount Vernon, I think at this point is doing the city tremendous harm. And the party leaders and elected officials from the Democratic Party in the city of Mount Vernon have demonstrated that they are unresponsive to our needs. And to elect Ms. Carter to office will fire a much needed warning shot across the political bow. Yeah. It tells them that they need to take seriously demands of the city of Mount Vernon, that our needs be represented with integrity, and that they stop coddling elected officials that they know are engaging in unethical, if not illegal behavior. Because this is not merely a problem of our elected officials. This is a problem of the Democratic Party in the city at this point.
Yes, yes. May I say one last thing? Dr. Bob, AJ, I just saw across the screen, I am on line 11D for David, Working Families Party line. I am 11D. George Latimer, our county executive, is on 7D. And Tim Iadoni, our county clerk, is for re-election on 8D. So you're going to vote Working Families Party line, 7D, Latimer, 8D, Iadoni, 11D, Carter.
Wow. So D. So remember D for the Democrat that's on the Working Family Party line. So I want to thank you for coming on, and I did want to address, because I got a text message, so I did want to address. So we try to get all the candidates on as to get as often as possible, so people can make an informed decision. We hadn't had you on the show. We actually had you on WVOX when you announced, but we never got you on the show before the primary. So that is the reason why we got you on the show today. It is not necessarily showing you favor over the other candidates, but to give people a last look at you, because we didn't get a chance to get you on before the primary. So that's it. Whether people think that's fair or not, that was my decision, and that's what we did. So, but that's the explanation for why. So, early voting is coming up on the 23rd. I implore everybody to go out and I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'm just telling you to go vote, man. Vote. As you see in the primary, every vote does count. The last seat in the primary was won by 1 or 3 votes. I think it was 1 at one time, then it was recount, it was 3 votes. That means if 4 other people voted, there could have been somebody else running and for the general election. So that's just, we've heard like races by like 100, and the Maureen Mayor Davis race was like 101. Yep. Then we had the race with Judge Adrian Armstrong and Judge Michelle Johnson, and that was around 40, 30, but this race was 1, 3, like literally, like, dude, like if that doesn't show you that every vote counts, Like for real, like the importance of every vote counts. And for my people out there, not just Mount Vernon, but everybody who can hear my voice, again, you can't vote, go to sleep for 4 years or 2 years or whatever, and then wake up again and vote again. This is a participatory sport. You have a responsibility as a whole, and we have to get more involved, and we have to come out and let our voices be heard. And that's it. Yes. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in, especially. I will make sure. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I did have to add, I've been endorsed even in the general election by James Jubilee, councilman. He endorsed me. He called me. He said, "Lauren, I'm crossing the line. I'm voting for you." There's a lot of people. Andre Wallace endorsed me, and there are other people, whether they're, elected officials, current or former. I'm not going to say, or even some past candidates. Not going to say names because some people don't want to. But I just want to let you know that these are people that are supporting me. They understand the challenges, and they don't want to take a chance.
Well, I'll say one last thing, and I say it in every election: voting on another line other than the Democratic line does not mean that you're not being a good Democrat. Being a good Democrat does not just mean being blindly loyal to to the party line if you're a candidate. I've personally, Damon and I started the Mount Vernon Independent Party. And then when the chairman of the Westchester chair died, it kind of died with him. But I believe in third parties. I believe in open primaries, and I believe in, everybody having a voice, but that's just me. So anyway, vote the best person for the best position. Go out and whatever you want. She told you how to get in touch with her. You've seen the other candidates. You know how to get in touch with them. Do your homework. Look into each candidate, and then you make a decision on what three that you want in there. That's your responsibility. Like I said all the time, you get the government you deserve because you get the government that you vote for. So at national level, state level, county level, local level, if you don't like who's in there, you get the government you deserve because you get the government you vote for. Or if you don't vote, the government you didn't vote for. For all y'all, I figure your votes don't count. So with that, I just want to leave it out there. Make sure you follow up on the redistricting. Any questions that you have, hit us at blackwestchester.com. I will make sure we provide you all the information. Also, in the video of this show, you can watch again on either our Facebook channel or our LinkedIn channel or our YouTube channel. Watch it. You see something that you learned something today, you see something that you feel other people need to know, please share it on your Facebook page, your other pages. Share this with other people so we can get the information out there. With that said, to everybody out there, you could be doing anything else, but you decided to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. This has been Black Westchester Presents, the People Before Politics radio show. We are on every Sunday, 6 to 8, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And until next week, peace.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.